Hey folks, this is Dave Smith, Correct Lifestyle, coming to you tonight with another video. It is another video from Master Swordsman Miyamoto Musashi's Dokkodo. It is the fourth principle of the Dokkodo, and it is to think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Okay? To break this down is you got to define self. Self is id, or ego. Your ego can get in the way of a lot of things. If you think so highly of yourself that your ego drives you, then you could fall for an inmate's manipulative tact of getting you to act out of impulse, getting you to act out of emotion. There's a man who YouTube famously gave a commencement speech. And I don't know where he was giving the commencement speech, but his name is Rick Rigsby. If you ever get an opportunity to look up Rick Rigsby commencement speech, it is a definitely good video to watch. But one of the things that he said in there, and it's about getting advice from the smartest person in his family, doctors, lawyers, everything. Smartest person in the family was third grade dropout. It was his dad. He was so wise that he gave all of this advice that Rick Rigsby talks about in his video. And I'm not going to expound too much on that, but what he said was, make sure your servant's towel is bigger than your ego. Basically, that means serve others before you serve yourself. In the Department of Corrections in Florida, we call that selfless service. Okay? Miyamoto Musashi also believed in thinking lightly of himself, thinking lightly of his ego. Something else that Rigsby went on to say was, ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. He said that twice. Okay? Musashi was a master swordsman, won over 60 life and death duels in his lifetime. And if he had thought highly of himself, if he had thought, I am the best, I am the greatest, I, me, he would not have won half of his fights, because his tact was to get his opponent to think so highly of himself that he would make mistakes. Also, Musashi was an artist. He was an author. He was many more things than just a swordsman. Being a swordsman is what he's most remembered for. But he also wrote the Dokkodo. He was also a very good artist. Miyamoto Musashi's principles of the Dokkodo, number 4, is to think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. How does that apply to corrections? Now, I've told you how it applies to the swordsman, but how does it apply to corrections, okay? I'm going to say again the line from Rigsby. Make sure your servant's towel is bigger than your ego, because ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity, okay? If you are, well, let's use an example. If you are in a use of force situation and an inmate can tickle your ego just a little bit and get you to hit him, rather than control him, get you to hit him, he's got you. Because you think so highly of yourself. How dare that inmate talk to me like that? How dare that inmate say that about me? You're thinking so highly of yourself that you're not thinking of the bigger picture. You're not looking at the bigger picture. You have lost sight of the forest for a single tree. Folks, Thinking lightly of yourself and deeply of the world is a way to exercise control over yourself. Remember, there's only two things you can control: your actions and your reactions. That's it. Those are the two things that you can control. And some of us have trouble controlling the first one. And most of us have trouble controlling the second. Okay? Think lightly of yourself. Part of our principles in the Florida Department of Corrections is selfless service. That is serving others before we serve ourselves. Make sure your servant's towel is bigger than your ego and used. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Folks, that's all I've got for this video. I certainly hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications when I post new videos, and I just learned how to give those notifications. So yeah, up until this point, it's been kind of a moot point to hit that bell, but I figured out how to do it, and by God, we're going to continue that trend. We're going to keep doing it. Okay? As always, there's no place for domestic violence in this world. 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-7233 is domestic violence hotline. People at the other end of the phone call have the tools, abilities, resources, and are willing to help the victims of domestic violence. If you know the aggressor in a domestic violence situation, say something to somebody. The absolute worst thing you can do is nothing. And if the violence is ongoing, another number you need to call is 911. Get them folks some help. Okay, if you are the aggressor in a domestic violence situation, there's help for you too. First, admit that you need that help. Second, ask for it. Now you got to remember, there are always consequences for your actions, and you might not come out of this unscathed, but you will come out of it better. I guarantee it. This is Dave Smith, Correctional Officer Lifestyle. I'll see you guys in the next video.